Hello, Joe. How you doing?
Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for having me. I forgot this is funny because I do so many Zooms that I host, so I'm not used to being on this side of
Yeah,
the clicking the OK and everything.
yeah, yeah. It's very exciting. Also, we're right next door to each other, so this is
It's always hilarious. I do this with Ranan. He's like, I can literally hear his voice up above me as we're
yeah,
recording our podcast. But I don't know for you, like we're too, and I don't want to say this about Ranan. I personally, yeah, well, I'll say we're too dumb to figure out how to do it in person. We tried once, we couldn't sync up the stuff. It was embarrassing. He had a panic attack. He was freaking out. We almost killed ourselves. So I like Zoom.
Oh yeah, I like Zoom because you get the free video. I can't figure out the video part. I can figure out the audio part, but the video, I'm
Same.
always just like I'm using a cell phone. I think an old cell phone, and it's too big, and then I fuck it up. So no, Zoom's great. I love Zoom.
Same thing. I've done it on my phone. And it's like, I don't know how to get this file over, or then like somebody calls you and it stops the video or whatever.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I like Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom is great. We did it. We figured it out. And then we'll high five afterwards in the hallway. It'll be
Yeah, that
great.
sounds great.
Yeah.
By
But
the way, did
Joe,
you get the quarter? There's a quarter on your step. Did you see it? I
yeah,
kept
I see
walking
it.
by it.
Oh, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it there.
I,
And
is
then
it
if
for
it
Ronan? Is it like is this like an anti-Semitic thing happening?
no, I just assumed if it went away, it would be Ronan, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I see it there every time, and I'm always just like, I know my cat put it there because she plays with it, and it'll go under the door. And then
uh,
I'm just hoping that one day you'll just like someone will be walking in, and you'll just see her little paw come out from underneath and just scare the shit out of you.
I would love that. I mean, I would hate it, but then love it afterwards
Yeah,
once I settle down.
you don't love animals. I feel like not a
Well,
huge domestic animal fan.
well, dogs. I come around on dogs. There's dogs that I love, but I'm naturally nervous around them. But then, like, there's some dogs that I love dearly. Cats. There's no cat that I love. I like your cat. I
Yes.
don't know. Maybe it's reversed. Maybe I love it, but don't like it.
Yeah, I just remember you coming into our apartment for the first time with the cat. And the cat was like sniffing you and checking you out, and you were like, "What is this cat doing? What is it doing? Get it away from me! What is it doing? I gotta go. I can't." Ah!
It's terrible. Well, I have an aunt who had cats, and I remember one of them scratched me like hard, like when like, and really came at me. I think I'm traumatized,
Oh
honestly.
no, I'm so sorry. What a bitchy
Yeah,
cat.
yeah. Well,
Although our cat is the same way. She's kind of a bitch. She'll attack you for no reason just because you're not paying attention to her.
that's what cats do. I don't care for it, but
Yes.
I'm happy that you're happy.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy 90% of the time. And then 10% of the time I'm bleeding from my face, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's
It's
life.
yeah, that's life. But Joe, thanks for doing this podcast. It's about drunk stories, which I think you have a few of since you are
I
a
got
sober person.
I got a lot of them. Yeah, I got too many of them.
This
Yeah,
is great.
I
This is great
enjoy
news.
I enjoy telling them. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. You grew up in Boston, which is a big, or the Boston area, which is a pretty big drinking town. Did you start in high school?
You know it's funny. I was like a late bloomer to drinking. I did not drink. The first drink I ever had was when I was like 11 with my family, and I
That's a
think it was
late
like the
bloomer.
classic.
Good God.
Well, it was just the one. I mean, and then I quit when I was 12. So oh, I was like 11, and my family's all big drinkers, big family, and everyone would always be together. And there was, I think it was just one of those things of like, give the kids some beer, that'll be funny. And so they let me have a sip of beer, and but I spit it out. I thought it was like nasty. I hated beer.
Hmm.
I thought it was gross. And so that was like my first like kind of thing of drinking. But my family was all like big drinkers, and I was an athlete. So I was like, I'm not gonna be a drink. I won't drink. So I never drank in high school at all. I drank
Mm.
zero alcohol in high school.
Oh, yeah, me too. No drinking in high school. I was like, I'm gonna get a scholarship, and then I didn't. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't do well in school. Also, that's like I should have been drinking. I had horrible grades because I just was an idiot.
Now I met a lot of your family, and they are big boozers. They're incredible.
Oh
uh,
yeah, you went. I wasn't there. It's funny. You did my uncle's show, which is like one of our drunkest nights of the year. My uncle's a fireman, or a bunch of my uncles are firemen, but we do the benefit, and you and
mm.
Steve did. And by the way, you like stole the show. Everyone talked about how amazing you were.
Oh, that's because I hit on one of your uncles. That's what
Oh
happened.
yeah.
I chased him off the stage trying to grab his butt. You know. An old crowd pleaser.
Well, either way, it went great. But anyways, yeah. So I never drank in high school at all. I didn't start until October of after I graduated. So I guess what is that? July, August, September, October, like 4 months after I graduated high school is when I first drank.
And do you remember the first time you got drunk?
Oh, do I? Yeah, it was in well, it's funny because the first time was like light. I went to Montreal. In New England, everybody goes up to Montreal. Like if you go to Montreal right now, there's a bunch of kids from Boston ruining the city. That's what you do because they had all these strip clubs. And back then, I'm like old now. Back in like 2000, 2001, whatever, I don't know anything about anything, but like the exchange rate, money, we would go to Montreal for a weekend with $200. And then you'd give them $200, they'd give you 400 Canadian. And we would have a hotel. And then I mean, imagine how crazy that is to go party for through 3 days with $200. That wouldn't last you 15 minutes, but that's what we did. And my first drink was a Midori sour because I didn't know, I knew I didn't like beer. And I was like 19. So I was like, and my friend was older, Sean. He's like, get a Midori sour. That's like and it was just whatever sugary green shit. I don't even know what it is, honestly. But I remember having the feeling of like, oh, I was wrong about drinking. This rules. And then the first night I just had like a buzz and felt fun. And then like, I think like the next night I was like, let's see how much drunker I can get. And that's where it started for me.
I know. And then a star was born, huh?
Hell yeah. Then I went, it was about 6 months before I was like, oh, I'm drinking harder than all of them now.
Did it become like a competition?
I think a little bit. It's funny, like, I don't know. I guess so. There was certain people, like all my friends were heavy drinkers. I was always drawn to them, but I always hated drinking game because I was like a true drunk. Like we'd play a card game and people would like throw down a card and be like, drink. And I'm like, I'm already drinking. It was never a punishment to me. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
I was the only guy like sipping drinks in between, which is another sign that like I was like an alcoholic because we'd be playing like asshole or whatever drinking game. And I'm like, I'm getting fresh beers even when I'm winning the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was like that too, but I'm still rocking it. Drinking, but
well, that's
take it as a sign.
I feel like you're probably a competitive person. Like, so when I'm playing a drinking game, I'm like, I want to win, but I also want to drink because I'm a drunk. So I would like dominate the game and make everyone get drunk, but then I would also be drinking just as much.
Yeah. What kind of drunk are you?
Well, that's a good question. Well, it's been a while. I mean,
young Joe. What was the young Joe drunk?
I was very much like, not unlike how I am soberly, but I was very bipolar. I was a lot of like, you hate me, you guys hate me, do I suck? I'm the worst, doing that. Or it would be the complete opposite. I'm like, fucking everybody loves me. I am the life of this party. And I would get big. Everything was the best night ever. I was like, this is the best night of my life. This is honestly the best night. I was like, don't you think this is like top 5 nights? I was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But then I would also like to like argue and debate, not unlike now. But if something came up sport, I would just scream and go crazy. I was not a reasonable guy. And then when I would get really drunk, then I would become like a vandal. I'd like to vandalize, like steal stuff and break stuff. I was an angry young boy. Yeah, I was crazy. I would like steal street signs and like jump on cars and like at like parking garages, those arms, you know, the big like arm, I would break those off and like whip them into the street. I was kind of a nut.
Joe, really?
I know. Yeah. It was bad. Like my house was like filled with street signs. My buddy who lives in Seattle, he still has a bunch of street signs that I would steal and bring into the house.
So people are like dying because drunk Joe is taking away stop signs.
Well, it was a lot of like street cleaning and like no parking this day. And he's like, I don't know how to get rid of them. He's like, I live in this community. I don't know how to throw away like official government signs. So they're just in his garage.
That's like, that requires effort. Like you have to unscrew them. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I would like hang on them or like kick them out of the ground, pull them out of the ground. I remember one time when I was in Key West with my friend Tom Dustin. Do you know Tom Dustin? You ever meet him?
No.
He's got the room in Key West. You guys got to go do that room. It's really
we'd
fun.
love to. Oh my God.
Yeah, I was talking to him earlier. I'll put in a word. But anyways,
thanks, Jim.
We went to Key West. He lives there now. But we went there years ago. And I remember we were like sharing a hotel room and I stopped he had gone to bed and I was still out drinking. That's the kind of guy I was. And I stole like a big potted plant from a hotel. It was huge, like barely get my arm. And it was really heavy. And I had to walk like 3/4 of a mile. It probably weighed like 40 pounds. And I put it in his bed. It was like a soiled pot. And I was like, this is so funny. And he woke up just like covered in plant soil. Like, and he's like, we paid for this room. Like, this is insane. And because it had knocked over and it was just like pounds of like wet soil in his bed. And I remember thinking, like, because that's the kind of, I wanted everyone to like me, still do. But I remember being like, he was mad and I couldn't believe he was mad. I'm like, what? I was like, that's classic. And he's like, dude, we're going to get fined. He's like, I have mud in my bed. But that's the kind of guy I was.
That's so funny. I gotta say, I've been doing this for 90 episodes. Not once has a potted plant come up in a bed. That's the first there, Joe.
Well, what was crazy about it too is like the amount of effort it took. I mean, like, I'm not kidding. It was probably like 3/4 of a mile. I would have to keep putting it down and breathe. And at any point I could have been like, this gag sucks. What am I doing? And I got it all the way there. And then immediately, and I also thought I would put it next to him so he'd wake up, there'd be a plant next to him. I didn't think that he would move at all and it would obviously just knock over a plant to spill it everywhere. It was bad. I don't remember what happened with the hotel, if we had a fine or if we like shuffled it all out. But they definitely went to clean the room and it was filled with soil.
How old were you when that happened?
This was 2006. So I would have been like 24.
Oh, did you go to college
24.
or did you go straight into comedy?
I went no college. I went to literally zero college. Like some people, like I went and I quit. I did zero of it. I just did the drinking. I was like, I'll just party. So I went to a bunch of schools to drink and stuff. But yeah, I never went to any college because nobody told me about when you go to college, there's just everybody got laid. It was like people, like I was in high school, there was like 3 people that would have sex. And then in college, it just felt like everybody was. And I was like, what? You're having, which I still feel that way now with the apps. Like Ronan's like, yeah, I went on a date. I'm like, you're hooking up with people. It's apps and colleges are very similar to me. I was like, I didn't know you could just do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense because you don't have to get to know somebody when you are on the apps.
Exactly. Both situations are like that, I feel like.
Okay. So out of college, you just did the drinking. Are you with like high school friends staying at home or did you get your own place?
So I lived at home and I started doing comedy right when I graduated high school, which was like basically my college, it felt like for me. But I don't know about you, if you were like this when I started. I've always been like this in my career. It's why it's taken me long to have success. But there was like one Wednesday open mic. And so I went to that every week and I was like, I'm a comedian. I go to this show on Wednesdays. And I did that for one full year. My first year of comedy, I did like 50 sets. And then finally, after a year, somebody was like, how come I never see you at all the other places? And I was like, what other places? And they're like, well, there's this show, that show, that show. And I was like, oh, shit. So it wasn't that first year or so of comedy. I was mostly hanging out with high school friends. Remember when you had friends that weren't comedians back in those days?
I know, way back in the day. Yeah.
And so I would drink with them most days. And then beginning of my comedy career, I was like that guy that was like, I won't drink before comedy because I'm taking it serious. And I was like that for a while. So I didn't really start drinking with comics until I was probably like 21, 22. And then I started going with the comedians that really drank. Like our group was like the drink hard, which kind of felt like my college phase. I moved to like a comedy house with 3 other comedians in Everett, which is like a little city outside of Boston.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was kind of that college-y frat thing.
Are they still doing comedy?
Yeah. So Tom, I live with Tom Dustin, who now runs the Key West room. He's the guy I put the plant in his bed. We were like inseparable. And then my friend EJ Murray, who still does comedy up there, he's a sober guy now as well. And so, yeah, they're all still around. But yeah, we went hard. It was the thing. The shows are in the way of the drinking. That thing. It's like, I wish we didn't have the show because we could get blackout earlier. You know.
So you black out?
Oh, big time. Yeah, a lot. I did a lot of blacking out. I mean, one time I woke up, my cousin had a party, and
Mhm.
I woke up in my underwear, handcuffed to his weight bench, just completely blacked out. Evidently, I was drinking like I think it was post breakup, and I was drinking Captain Morgan out of the bottle. They said, and then I just felt like my knees gave out, and I just fell. And then when I came to, I was like trying to like fight him because he was trying to put me to bed, and he's like, "You just wouldn't stop fighting me, so I handcuffed you." But I don't remember any of it. Like I literally woke up like, hmm? And that feeling of like, well, this seems like something went haywire. It doesn't feel sexual. Like it doesn't feel like I had a kinky sex. I was like, there's something's weird here. It was bad.
Oh God. I mean, I used to black out a lot too. I haven't done it in years, but it is always that feeling where you wake up and you're like, do I have all my shit? What am I doing? Where am I? Is this right? One time I went to bed in a tent and then woke up in a car and I was like, oops, this.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those feelings. I mean, I called the cops one time to report my car stolen and then remembered that we had gone out to get more alcohol. And it was like I wasn't blacked out when I went to get to the liquor store. I remember that after a while, but I blacked out afterwards. So I woke up, I was like, I know my car was here. So I was probably in like a brownouty phase drive. And I don't promote drinking and driving, but I did a whole lot of it. But it was that thing where you come out and you're like, my car is gone. And we literally called the police and we're talking to this sounds like a joke from like a movie. We were talking to the police. And as I was talking to him, I looked over his shoulder and saw my car, like it just in a different parking place. And I had to be like, oh, you know what? I moved my car. It's over there. And the cops, you could tell, were like, dude, okay, and left. But I mean, it was like it got to the point where they are talking to me,
Oh
and
my
my car was
God.
just I had moved it.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sucks. Oh,
I mean, this is reminding me of a lot of this is taking me back to
oh,
some
good. I well,
stories. It's fun.
oh, good. Happy to help. I was like, is this could either be good or bad?
No, well, I mean, for me, it's like the stories are funny, but when you actually put yourself there, you're like, oh, I was like bottoming out. I wanted to kill myself. You know, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
horrible.
Oh God. Oh, did you get depressed when you were drinking?
I did like the next. I mean, to me, it was like the time where everyone was drinking. That was fun, and then I would hit a point where I'm like, "What am I doing?" Because I wanted to be successful, obviously, and like I wanted to make a movie and really do stand up. And mostly, I was just like partying. So I would
Yeah.
get, yeah, I would get like the next day. My hangovers were just brutal. That's why I eventually quit when I was like third. Not to like jump ahead, but like when you're 30 you start the hangovers start like taking you out for like days. But when you're 23, 24, the next day get up and go for a run and like play basketball and shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 30 hits and then you're just like, oh, I think I have kidney failure. Something's happening and I can't move. But I remember
Yeah,
working
exactly.
brunch, like waking up, working brunch, and then just immediately starting to like have Bloody Marys again and just be fine and be like, whatever you need. And yeah, once you hit 30, it's like, no, I'm dead. I died. I'm dead now.
Yeah, oh, 100%. No, I mean work hangovers were like the worst. I worked at FYE. Do you know that place? It was like Record Town
Oh
basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like the
Like a
knockoff of like records or
yeah.
whatever it's called. I don't even think they
Um
have them anymore.
FYE might still be around. I don't even know.
It was like a music-based Best Buy almost and smaller.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I worked there and I remember being like sitting behind the register being like, I hope nobody comes in. Oh my God, that feel. And like literally like you're talking about like throwing up at work and then coming back out onto the floor and being like, hey, yeah, oh, we got Snoop Dogg. Yeah. And it's just horrible. Horrible.
Oh God. So how long did you live in Boston?
I was there. I did comedy. I started into I still live with my parents. I was
Hmm.
there until April of '07. I moved to New York in April of '07 and I lived at this other apartment, the Drunk Party Comedian House, from like January '05 to April of '07, which feels like way longer because we went so hard. So I guess like
Hmm.
2 years I actually lived like in my own apartment. But 7 years I was in Boston for comedy.
Okay. And what was your drinking like when you moved to New York? Did you get sober when you moved to New York or
Well, when I
yeah.
first moved to New York, I tried. I was like, I'm gonna get sober, and that lasted days, which is another fun story that I like telling. So because I was like such a maniac, and I was like, I got to get sober. So I had like 6 or 7 days sober. And I was meeting up with other sober people, and I left there and I was like, I got 6 days. I got a good hold on this. And I met my friends at what's that bar, the movie, Coyote Ugly. They're like, we're at Coyote Ugly. And I was like, well, I'm 6 days sober. I'll come meet you guys. And if people aren't familiar, it's where like girls dance on the bar in their bras, and they spray beer and they shake and they do a whole dance. There's a movie about it. Mm-hmm. And you could never do this now, but I ordered a Coke, and the bartender turned the music down and got on the house mic and was like, we got a pussy in the house. Literally. And I was like,
no.
I literally was like, give me a beer. And everyone was like, ah. And she called me a pussy. And I just was like, all right, fuck it. Give me a drink. And then I continued to drink for about 3 more years after that, which is not her fault. People are like, oh, that's horrible. But I'm like, I shouldn't have been there. But fun story.
Oh, God. That is rough. That is, I mean, I guess I understand but it was a different time. If you did that now, you'd get sued. I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. No, they would like shut you down and throw you in jail. But
oh God. So what was your any New York drunk stories?
Yeah. So New York, it took a while because you move here, and like it felt like the people I knew here, it took a while to find the drinkers, but I moved with a couple buddies from Boston, which was also funny because you move down to New York and you're like, here we go. I'm a New York comic now, but you get nervous and scared and you have anxiety, whatever. So we would just drink at our house, which was really funny because you're like, we moved 220 miles to just sit in the house drinking. Yeah. But my best New York story, and this actually happened before I moved in 2003. I forgot about this. This is my college. I went to like a 5-week acting program at New York Film Academy in New York. So I lived in New York for like a month and a half. And this is like my most embarrassing drunk New York story. I was at a bar in the East Village, and I saw Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was already like my favorite actor, who I love. You've probably seen, I have a framed picture of him on my wall because he's just like the best. Mm-hmm. So I saw him and I was hammered. I walked up to him and he was like I don't know if he was on a date or just talking to a woman. It was a beautiful black woman. I remember that. And they were sitting there just chatting, and I just stood in between them for like an uncomfortable period of time. And then he kind of looked over and I said, and I was hammered. And I said, the only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone when you're uncool. And then he responded, what? And I went, that's from Almost Famous. It's your line from Almost Famous. And he went, oh, yeah. Like he wasn't having any of it. He was like, yeah. And so then there was like this awkward pause, and I tried to save it. So I went, I'm friends with Patrice O'Neill. And I wasn't. I had never met Patrice in my life. And he responded, I don't know who that is. And I said, well, you're in 25th Hour together. You have a scene together. And he went, okay, man. And looking back, I wish he was alive and I could find him and be like, I am so sorry. Because I was like, all right, well, and now it's like, I'm not a celebrity, but I have some people know who I am. Mm-hmm. And so I'll have exchanges with people and I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, this is insanity, what you're saying to me. And I was totally that guy. I quoted a line and then pretended to be friends with someone he didn't know who I wasn't even friends with.
Oh my God.
And I remember too, and then this is the other thing about being a drunk. I remember walking back to the people I was with that went to acting school with me. And I was like, dude, I just talked to him. It was cool. I fucking just like, I didn't go, oh my God, that was humiliating. I'm a piece of shit. I was like, yeah, man. I was just chatting him up. Philip Seymour Hoffman. And they're like, whoa, that's great.
Oh my God. That made me so uncomfortable.
It's so cringe. It's so cringe. And it's not just one line. It's like a long line. He sat there and listened to me say this entire thing.
Oh my God. No wonder he got high. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, he's dead now because of me.
Yeah, it's Joe's fault. There's no signs in Seattle, and and Philip Seymour Hoffman is dead. God. Oh God. You know what? That's fine, right? What was your rock bottom? Can I ask what a rock bottom is? Is that a weird thing to ask?
Yeah, sure. So I have a few. It's hard because I mean, the big story that people know about is when I shit in the girl's shoe. which was
Yes.
like a bottom, that was another blackout, obviously. Like, I mean, it was just horrible. I woke up literally, I remember just waking up in a bed, a strange bed, and having to pee so bad. That's like my memory. It was like I was like my bladder was like killing me, and I was like, I gotta pee, because if I pee my pants, my God. And I peed for like 10 minutes, and the whole time I was like, whose house am I at? And I came into the living room, and the table was like smashed. And I remember thinking, I think that was me. You know that feeling? Have you ever had that feeling where you see something and you're like, I think I did that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, I came out, and I had filled up this woman's sneaker with my poo and also urinated. It was like a big urine stain. And it was so bad. And then I traipsed it like across her kitchen floor, because I must have like walked through it at some point. It was really horrible. But the funny part of it is I was on my way to the airport. I had to go to the airport straight from there, which was so bad. And I texted and I was like, I am so sorry about last night. And they literally wrote back, no, you're fine. It was fun. And I was like, holy shit, these girls like party.
Yeah.
That's crazy that they like don't even care. And then I put my phone on airplane mode, flew across the country. And when I took it off airplane mode, I had text being like, we had no idea how bad you were. This is awful. And I was like, that makes more sense. So the craziest part about it is, though, they had left for work. So when this is how late we drank and how fucked up I was. I shit in her shoe at like 9:45 a.m. Like, it wasn't even at night. It was like morning.
Oh my God.
But I remember thinking like, these girls are crazy. They don't care. And then I was like, oh no, okay. They didn't know. That makes more sense.
Did you ever see them again?
No. So I think we're still friends on like Facebook and maybe even Instagram. But so I wrote this like long apology, which is what's on Facebook. So it still exists. I have it on my Facebook messages. It's like so long. It's really heartbreaking actually when I read it. And because they were like 22, they were pretty cool. They were like, don't sweat. And I sent them a bunch of money too. And they were like, don't sweat it. Like, you shouldn't get that drunk, but whatever, crazy stuff happens. And so they were I always joke, I'm like, if they were in their 40s, like I'd be dead. They would have shot me. But they were like fresh out of college. So they're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm sure they talk about this story. But one of them, the girl whose actual room it was, like I talked to again. I actually almost went on a date with her. Like I had tickets to go see the Late Show with David Letterman. And I think she was gonna come, and at the last minute she had to work or whatever. And I just was like, okay, that's probably better. But we had relatively pleasant exchanges after, and I hope they don't hate me. I assume they're over it. It was 12 years ago.
Also, you are a very sincere person, so I'm sure that letter was also very kind and sincere. And then money always helps. So
yeah, I said it was funny. I mean, Nate Bargatze made me laugh so hard. First of all, I told him the story, and it's like the hardest I've ever heard anybody laugh. We were with each other. And then I said, I was like, is it weird if I send $300? Is that too much? And Nate goes, man, I don't think there's an amount you can send that's too much. It made me laugh. Because at the time I was completely broke. It was like a huge $300 when you're at that point in your life was like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, I don't think there's an amount of money you can send that they're gonna be like, oh no, that's too much.
Yeah.
So that was like strangely like a bottom. But then that night I got to Seattle. I was flying to Seattle, and I remember thinking, I'm not gonna not drink ever again, so I might as well drink tonight. And so then I drank for like another 2 years. But my real bottom isn't even a funny story. It's like a sad story. But my brother-in-law, who I love, his father had died right before Christmas. And I was drunk on Christmas, and I was like making jokes about his dad dying. I was like, hey, your dad, something. I can't even remember. And he looked like heartbroken and was like, what are you doing? And I remember being like, oh, I don't know. And it was like such a layered question that I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I was being like funny or whatever. So that was like the sad, but that's when I actually quit drinking. It was like one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm like hurting people. Because eventually you have that thing where like, you're not like the shitting in the girl's shoe. I ended up getting away with it. They're like, it was funny, whatever. And then you tell it as a story, and it's a hilarious story. So you're like, you kind of got away with it. And then just like people being like, oh, you're hurting my feelings. And you're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah,
All right.
that's not what I wanted.
I'm like, that's not fun at all.
No.
By the way, if it looks like I'm struggling, it's because I have a chair on wheels and we live in New York, so nothing's level. So it slowly just rolls away as I'm sitting.
Oh, good. We're also our office is just like at a complete slant. And so every like 2 days I have to adjust our bike, and I have my desk on stilts, only on half of them, because we're like, whoa.
Yeah, and I think we have like one of the nicest, newest apartments of anyone I know, but it's still like it's a lot of like rolling away.
Yeah, 100%. I have a question just for you, just because you did drink while doing comedy. Did you ever like burn a bridge in comedy because of the drinking, or was it always just like silly fun time comics being comics?
It's hard to say. I mean, like I had a lot of, I don't know about fully burning a bridge. I mean, I had a lot of arguments and stuff, but so many, like I said, so many people I gravitated to were also drunks that would kind of just be like, well, whatever. And I also feel like I was always like a nice person. I was annoying. I was never like mean or vindictive or like violent, like fuck you. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I feel like I had a lot of arguments, and I'm sure I drove a lot of people crazy, but never like a we're through forever kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do feel like, I don't know, people eventually are just like, it was crazy, you got weird, whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know of any like bridges I burned, but maybe there's like bridges I burned, I didn't even realize it. But I do remember one time drinking, I would go to the Comedy Cellar and like drink beers when you're not past there and you just want to like be around and you think. I remember Colin Quinn, who's like my everything. He's like my father.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him just coming over and going, don't drink here, drink somewhere else. And I was like, had a beer, like, what do you mean? He's like, this isn't a bar. You should leave and drink a different place. And it's funny because I still feel that way now in New York. I'll see people like that don't work there and aren't like past, just like there drinking cocktails. I'm like, you should go to a bar, because it's like nobody's like, oh, that's the guy that drinks here, put him on stage. You know. I don't know what that had to do with anything, but so yeah, I don't know.
That's good.
I don't know about burning any bridges. Again, there might be someone listening being like, I hate you, we haven't talked in 9 years or whatever.
Curse Joe List, he doesn't remember.
Yeah, so I mean, there was definitely a lot of like, that was crazy or whatever. But I think also when you quit, people start to go, oh, that guy, he's back to like normal again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wasn't a Brit. I was also always so obsessed with everybody liking me, and still am, that it was like hard for me to burn bridges, because I'm like, there's bridges that I should burn.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, I want them to like me, so whatever. I'll just work for $80.
Oh yeah. I still have those. I still get messages from people, and I was like, I can't do that for free. I can't drive out to Long Island and do a guest spot for 5 minutes, but you're so nice, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just can't do it that one night. You know?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me, but I want to be. I mean, I do a joke like this where I don't want to just do a bit on the show, but
go ahead.
people say, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm like, I'm the reverse. People mistake my weakness for kindness. They're like, you're a really nice guy. And I'm like, I actually hate you. I just don't know how to express it. I'm like, I don't have the balls to say it.
I relate to that so hard.
Yeah, people are like, do you want to? I have a gig in Western Mass. It pays like $100, and I'm like, what are you, insane, you douche? But instead, I'm like, I'm working that night, but thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm offended. Okay, like I have standards, but I'm like, oh, I just, it just doesn't work out with my schedule. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Which is a disservice to both of us, because then the person keeps being like, well, I'll try this week.
Yeah.
And I'm just like building this resentment instead of being like, stop trying. You need somebody not as good.
Well, with me, I'm just like, I just don't want to.
Right. Well.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a legit reason. I'm just like, well, I just don't want to.
Yeah. Well, it's I wish that I had learned that earlier in comedy, to be like, no, thanks. All set.
Yeah. I once asked someone to do some, to like, I forget what it was. Oh, I had to cancel a spot and I was trying to find a replacement. And I was like, do you want to do this? And it was actually Katie Hannigan. She was like, no, thanks. And I was like, okay.
Katie's so good with it.
Yeah.
That's like, she's like incredible to me. I watch her. I'm like, how did you do that? That was like magical.
It's incredible. She just doesn't do anything she doesn't want to do. And it's like, all right, great. You didn't need to give an excuse or a lie or anything. You're just like, no, thanks.
Yeah, that's if I told my therapist I did that, he'd be like, okay, wow, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, you're
Yeah.
growing.
And then I'd feel guilty for about 3 days. It would just be like, oh, I should have. Anyway, but
No, exactly. I'm like, I'm a piece of shit. Everyone hates
mhm.
me. I stink.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that guy's never going to talk to me again. I'm an asshole.
yeah,
um, but Joe, it's the time in the podcast where I ask if there's any stories we didn't get to.
everything I had written down, I did, but there has to be more crazy drunk stories. I might have to think. I wrote down Philip Seymour Hoffman shit and shoe, call cops, car stolen, and we got into them all naturally.
Oh, beautiful.
I mean, there was a time where I was a big karaoke guy. I don't know if you know.
Oh, I
this
did
about
not
me.
know that about. I knew you were an air drum and air guitar guy. I didn't know you were a singer.
I get after it, and this is a story that like it's not even about drinking, but when I was drinking for these stories. But on the 4th of July, 2002, coming up on 20-year anniversary of this, I was still underage. I was 20, and I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and with a fake ID. I was Joseph Michael Arnold. It was a real ID. It just wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang. It was the night of 4th of July. I sang "Born to Run," which was my go-to, Springsteen. And I just went crazy, like was jumping up on the wall, and I had everybody going nuts. And afterwards, a woman named Joey walked up to me, and this, by the way, this could never work in reverse, but she walked up to me and was like, I am going home with you tonight, and I do not care what you say. And I said, of course, I was like, okay. I was like, you don't have to say anything. Great. And I took her home. We had a nice roll in the hay, Joe and Joey. So that was like my most glorious drinking night. And I also had another one. I sang karaoke in Providence, Rhode Island, same song.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was leaving, this sounds like a made-up story. I wish my friend Tom Dustin was here telling it because it's better coming from him. But we were leaving. It was me and my friend Alvin and Tom. We were walking out, and a guy grabbed me, like an old man at the bar. He looked like he'd been there for 75 years, and he grabbed me by the arm, and he pulled me in. He goes, that was the best thing I've ever seen, and I've seen Led Zeppelin. And, so those were the plus sides of my drinking career. That was when my drinking was, that's the stuff I miss.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I get that. But you can still do that. You don't have to be drunk to do that.
Yeah, I did at the Impractical Jokers cruise. They had like the live band karaoke, and I ripped a Born to Run, and it was pretty epic.
That's great. Look at that. Then
Yeah.
you're missing nothing. You're killing
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
And
but yeah,
now
those are a couple stories.
that's fun. I love that. I want to go to karaoke with you now.
We should do some karaoke.
We should. I mean, now that things are open, we should do it. The only the song I like to sing is All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey. I sing that very badly. And
That's not an easy song.
no, and I do it poorly, very, very poorly. And I dance around. I'm all show, no tell. I'm just very
Sure.
yeah. But yeah, we should do that. Is there
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as a karaoke expert, one of the common mistakes people make, a big one that people want to do, is girls just want to have fun, is like a common song. And people don't realize that Cyndi Lauper is like an unbelievable singer. And almost everybody sounds like complete dog shit on that song, because there's like notes that are like amazing in that song that she's hitting. And everyone's like, some girls it's just really bad. And I'm like, I always want to tell people, like, don't do it. I know you think it. I know your girls are here. I know you can't pull it off. It's not going to work. She's better than you. Much, much better.
Yeah, 100%. I just lean into the bad. It's like sometimes I'll do Spice Girls and I'll sing all the parts, and I'll just really
hell yeah.
Just, oh God, it's very embarrassing, but I do have to be a little drunk in order to do it. But I think we could conquer some sober singing. That could be fun.
I think we should do it. I think that's a good idea for a show or a party. Yeah, I
Yeah.
turned 40 in a couple months. That might be a fun idea.
Joe, you're turning 40.
I know, I'm old. I'm an old
How do you feel
man.
about it? You feel good?
You know what? I feel a little weird. I feel bad for my parents. It sounds weird, because to me, like, I'm 40, I'm whatever, I'm young, I feel fine. But like, for some reason, I said it to my mother, and she's like, "Oh wow!" Like the idea of having your youngest child is 40. I feel like I feel young and youthful, but I just see my parents being like, what? My baby is 40? I literally feel bad for them. I want to like lie about my age just to benefit my mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's probably her like sobering moment, like, oh good God.
Yeah, she's like, gross.
Well, you don't look 40. You look she might also just be surprised because you look so good.
Oh, thank you. Well, I steam, and I don't drink.
Yeah, not drinking is the best thing you can do for your skin, I found out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It's something about it because it dehydrates you. And so it dries out your skin, which makes you get fine lines and shit like that and big
Oh, no
pores.
kidding.
So look at you. You're looking great. Not
Yeah, hell
drinking is
yeah.
the best thing you could have done for your face.
And I got a haircut.
Yeah, it looks very good. It looks
Oh,
very
thank
I
you.
noticed it last
Appreciate it.
time and I was like, look at you.
I know. I feel like $1 million. But this is
Yeah.
the best podcast I've ever done.
Always. I'll give you reminders of why you made the right decision not to drink and compliment you profusely.
I feel great. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add or where can people find you? What do you want to plug?
You can find me at Joe List Comedy on Twitter and Instagram. And for God's sakes, please, if you're listening, go subscribe to my YouTube. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. I have a podcast called Joe and Ronan with our neighbor and friend. Joe and Ronan Talk Movies. It's all on YouTube. And I got sketches and old stuff. And I'm going to release a special in like a couple months or a few weeks that will be on there. So I need subscribers for the algorithm. So go check that out.
Yeah. I saw the special live. It is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It looks great too. You did a great job with the special.
Awesome.
Look at that. More
Thank
compliments coming your way.
I
But yeah,
it.
Follow Joe List and do that. And thank you, Joe, so much for doing the podcast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. I'll high five you in the hallway and
Yep.
I'll pick up that quarter. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thanks, Joe.